Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So 55-year-old Texas resident and Air Force veteran Larry Brock posted on Facebook on November 7th of 2020, quote, "A revolution every now and then is a good thing." The following day, he wrote, quote, "Biden outperformed Obama? Right. I have said it before and I will say it again. If the president calls, I will answer. Hashtag Oathkeeper." On November 9th, he wrote about executing traitors and defending the Constitution. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Anyway, he continued to post in December of 2020, talking about how he didn't want to live in a communist country. He used the hashtag Civil War 2021. And on December 7th, Brock wrote to a friend, quote, "SCOTUS needs to see if they don't act that there will be blood." A few days later, he posted, quote, "It appears as if SCOTUS is going to duck. If so, then it will be game on soon. We need ROE, a clear chain of command, ending with President Trump and a master target list." So ROE stands for Rules of Engagement, by the way. And when his friend messaged him about Biden's inauguration, Brock replied, quote, "Look, dude, I am pretty sure I am ready to go at it. I just need numbers with me." Well, on December 24th, Brock messaged a Facebook contact and he said, quote, "I bought myself body armor and a helmet for the civil war that is coming." And he messaged the previous friend that I mentioned, laying out an 8-step plan if Congress failed to stop Biden's certification. Step 1 was, quote, "Seize all Democratic politicians and Biden key staff and select Republicans." And then in parentheses, it said Thune and McConnell. "Begin interrogations using measures we used on Al-Qaeda to gain evidence on the coup." Step 3 was, quote, "Seize national media assets and key personnel, Zuck, Jack, CNN lead, and talking heads, seize WAPO and New York Times editors, eliminate them, media silence except for White House communications." Step 5, he said, quote, "Let the Democratic cities burn, cut off power and food to all who oppose us." And then step 8 is really interesting. It said, quote, "General pardon for all crimes up to and including murder of those restoring the Constitution and putting down the Democratic insurrection." There were also some bullet points listed under that one. It's number 1 was, quote, "Do not kill LEO unless necessary." LEO means law enforcement officers. Number 2 was, quote, "Attempt to capture Democrats with knowledge of coup." And then 3 was, quote, "Shoot and destroy enemy communication nodes and key personnel." But it was a peaceful protest, according to Sucker Carlson. So on December 27th, Brock messaged his friend again. He said, quote, "I prefer outright insurrection at this point." And then between January 1st and January 5th, Brock posted publicly on Facebook. He said, quote, "Help is on the way. 6 Jan 2021, hashtag MAGA, hashtag storm the castle." He also wrote, quote, "Biden won't be inaugurated. We will ensure that on the 6th. And quote, "Our second American Revolution begins in less than 2 days." Then on January 6th, Brock was seen on surveillance video. He was illegally entering the Capitol wearing his helmet and his tactical vest. He witnessed several incidences of violence against the police, including just outside the Senate gallery. The prosecutor said that Brock intervened in that particular instance, but then he followed everybody inside the Senate chamber. You know, they successfully overpowered the officers and he went in, even though he saw these people are being violent. And then somewhere along the way to the Senate chamber, Brock found flexi cuffs on the ground. He picked them up and he put them in his pocket and he had those with him when he was in the Senate. So Brock stayed in the Senate gallery for a bit. Then he walked downstairs to try to enter the Senate chamber, like the actual Senate floor. Here's the strange part. Brock was seen on video trying to use a set of keys to unlock the Senate doors. So I have no idea where those keys came from, but they didn't end up working. So he entered through another door that was open from the inside by a member of the mob. While he was in the Senate, Brock was looking through papers that senators had left on their desks. He was yelling at other people not to sit in the vice president's chair. And then he exited about 8 minutes later. And after he exited, he encountered a police officer who told him to leave the building, but he was seen on her body cam just ignoring her commands. So Brock did eventually exit the Capitol sometime later. He broke up a fight first between a member of the mob and a police officer before he exited. And then on January 8th, he was interviewed by The New Yorker, and he claimed he witnessed no violence at the Capitol, and he believed he was welcomed into the building. So Brock was arrested on January 10th of 2021, and he was charged with obstructing an official proceeding, entering a restricted building or grounds, 2 counts of disorderly conduct, entering the floor of Congress, and parading or demonstrating in a Capitol. Even with these serious charges, he refused a plea deal. He opted for a bench trial, and in November of 2022, he was found guilty on all counts. So based on the obstruction charge, Brock was looking at up to 20 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and $258,000 in fines. However, the government requested 60 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. And Brock has a somewhat concerning recent history. In 2015, he was convicted on a disorderly conduct charge. And in 2018, he was fired by his employer after receiving numerous written and verbal warnings because apparently he was making very disturbing comments to his fellow employees. Brock told some of them that he, quote, had not killed anyone for a while. And then he made comments about, quote, shooting members of a particular religion and or race. Even with this employment history, Brock was working as a commercial airline pilot when he stormed the Capitol. So only after his arrest for January 6th did the FAA revoke his pilot's license. So U.S. District Judge John Bates presided over Brock's case, and he told Brock that his messages in the lead up to the Capitol attack were, quote, I think it's especially reprehensible and quite frankly unbelievable coming from a senior military officer. It's detailed, it's consistent, it's both astounding and atrocious. And we have no acceptance of responsibility and no showing of remorse whatsoever. Zero. The judge also told Brock, quote, that's chilling stuff, and it does reflect a purpose to stop the certification of the election. Judge Bates also told the attorneys, quote, I think it's fair to say his rhetoric is on the far end of how extreme it is. And yet, after saying all of that, the judge sentenced Brock to only 2 years in prison, 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service, and $2,000 in restitution. You know, as I always say, Judge Bates is hit and miss, typically more miss. He tends to be one of the more lenient judges in these cases, and it's pretty pathetic. You know, considering that this guy put his violent plans in writing before January 6th. And this guy was in the military. I doubt that 2 years in prison is going to faze him. So the only good part about this is, you know, he's still going to be in prison during the next election. Even if he gets out early for some reason, he's not going to be able to vote or possess a gun legally. He'll still be on probation. So I guess we have to look at the silver lining, go for those small wins, right? All right, guys, if I hear any more, I'll let you know. Thanks so much for watching and listening. And please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you possibly can. Truly helps to keep the show going, and I really appreciate it. Love you all. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.